Looking for real stories that lift you up? Welcome to Inspire and Impact, the podcast where purpose meets perseverance. This is where transformation begins and your story continues.
I'm your host, Daniel Rosenstein. Thank you for coming on the Inspire and Impact podcast show. Today I have the honor of interviewing Danielle Anderson. Danielle, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited for you to be here, learn a little bit more about you and your book and everything. Can you share a little bit about yourself with the audience?
Sure. I am the mother of two, grandmother of three, that I am now raising. 3 girls. Oh, can you imagine 3 girls being in high school at the same time? I am a certified chef. I'm culinarian and baking pastry chef. And I also teach culinary. Of course, you know, I'm an author. I act in one of the local TV shows here in Greensboro. I'm a praise and worship leader at church, children's ministry, choir leader. Oh, I'm busy. I do a lot, especially at church.
Fantastic. It sounds really amazing. I took a little peek about your book and I saw that it's called From Darkness to Light, like how I won the battle for my body, and that you're an Insider Weekly Best Inspirational Memoir for 2025.
Yeah.
And you got several Global Book Awards winner.
Yes, twice.
That's an amazing accomplishment, so congratulations.
Thank you.
So maybe we can go a little bit more into your history, if that's okay with you. I mean, what was your early life, in North Carolina?
Oh, wow. Where do I start? I was raised by a single mother. My dad was in my life, but he wasn't in my life. My mom was, what they say was the other woman. My dad was married to his wife, but still had 3 kids by my mom. So that kind of took a toll on me as a child. And it caused the roots to start growing, to cause some things in my life that took an impact, not just in my childhood, but, once those roots start growing, they grow with you. Oftentimes I tell people, because I am a chef and a lot of things I do deals with food. It's like an onion, the different layers. And something, God showed me with an onion is right in the middle of that onion is a root. And that root begins to take on those layers. And that onion cannot become that onion because, as a cook, the first thing I do is cut the root off that onion, because in that root, there's the bitterness there. That's where the gases are that burns your eyes. So a lot of times we go through things in our childhood that take root. And as we grow, those roots grow with us and more layers are put on. So because of some of the things I went through as a child, not really having my father in my life and longing for a man to love me, because, we need that fatherly love, especially young ladies. I often tell young men now that I meet that, that are new fathers, the father can make or break the daughter. The young men need the fathers, but there's something about being a daddy's girl that really helps impact our lives and who we choose as a mate. Because I didn't have that father figure in my life, I began to look for love in all the wrong places. And in turn, it really took me down some paths that were destructive. And because of those paths that I took, it really took a toll on my life. And we don't realize that a lot of times the things that we go through affects the people that surround us as well. So because of some paths that I took, I can see now that, I have like I said, I have 2 kids and a daughter. My daughter kind of took on some of those things because of me going through and, as I stated, looking for love in all the wrong places and not having my father in my life and didn't have that role model as a father, I was willing to accept anything in a mate just to be loved. And in turn, got pregnant at an early age with my son. And then because I didn't want my daughter to go through the same things I did, I accepted her father. And because of that relationship, I went through 7 long, intensive years of abuse. And I'm just, as I stated earlier, I'm grateful to be here. Looking back now, I know that there were some things I could have done differently. But now that I've grown, I know that a lot of the things we go through is what God uses to make us who we are today. And God used those incidents, the things that I went through, to build in me the person that He's called me to be today.
Thank you very much for sharing all that. It's very brave of you to come on here and share your story. I'm sure there's a lot of people that resonate with what you're saying, because unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that, had to go through this similar path like you did. I was curious to know, like, when did you discover that you wanted to become like a writer?
Like I said, the roots, I can remember as early as 4 years old. That's all I've ever done. That was my way of escape. So I have poems, books of poems. I know now that was a way God used to kind of keep me, because through writing, I was able to go to places that I would never be able to go to in a lifetime. Like I said, writing was my escape, and it really helped me heal in a lot of areas.
That's wonderful. Writing can be so powerful, and it gave you a way to express yourself and to maybe see parts of your life, or to express your life that you couldn't do it in other ways.
Yes.
It's so wonderful. So what made you decide to put that writing online and share your story for the world?
Oh, it was really a struggle. I struggled with it. I don't know, when I gained my relationship with God, He just began to prompt some things in me. And one of the things that He began to say is, you need to write it. You need to write it. So I began to write. I struggled with it for a couple of years. I didn't want to write it because there's a lot of things in the book about me, not just me, my family, that I didn't want people to look at me in a different way. So it was hard to write it. I went through a period in 2001, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cervical cancer. And of course, the doctors really didn't give me any hope. And it was through that time that I spent at home, because I couldn't work for 2 years because the chemo radiation that I had to go through was very intense. So I began to really write. And through that writing, I know without a shadow of a doubt, it was what helped heal me through that cancer, that chemo, because as I stated before, I believe that cancer was a part of the root. And because we hold things in, because we don't want people to know what I've been through, or, I've done this in the past, because if you read the book, you'll see, I did a lot of things that then I was ashamed of, but now I know that that's a part of life. We're going to go through things. So like I said, I wrestled with it, and he laid it on my heart to send my mom the manuscript. And I did. And when I did, she called me crying. And she told me, you have to allow other people to hear your story. And that was when me and her really got to talk. And I didn't know then, but know now that a lot of the things that I went through, my mom also went through. And she said to me, there are so many people that have been where you've been that needs this hope, that needs to hear your story. Because if they don't hear your story, they're going to stay in that place they're in. And that's when she let me know, because she heard my story. It released a lot of stuff in her. I'm sorry. I think finally when my mom said, when she gave me the okay, that's when I knew that it had to get out. And right as I was writing, one of my friends didn't know what was going on, but she was going through a lot in her marriage. And she's no longer here. And she didn't get to hear my story. But right after the book was released, there was a young lady that was in church with me. Her and I were, good friends. We were on the unmarried ministry together. And she just left. I didn't know what happened to her. I didn't know where she had gone. And I got a letter in the mail from her. And she said, thank you. She said that she had been in an abusive relationship for 20 years. And because of her reading my book, she was able to walk away. And she hasn't gone back. So the story had to get out.
Wow, that's really powerful. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And that's just one person. I mean, I'm sure you'll be touching hundreds of other people like out there as well. I mean, because what is it that you want people who read this book to get? Like what like lessons do you want them to know, or was it that you want them to understand after like reading your book?
That there is hope. That the situation, that's just what it is, a situation. You don't have to stay there. And as I stated, I went through a very abusive relationship, and mentally, physically, however he could degrade me, that's what he did. And I gained a relationship with God, and he began to speak to me and tell me that I was fearfully and wonderfully made, that I was created in his image and likeness. And it was through that, because, the young man that I was with, he would say different things about me. No one is going to ever want you. You're nothing, But when God began to speak to me and let me know that there was a purpose for my life, that I was here for a reason, I want others to know that you're here for a purpose. Even your show is here for a purpose. And that's so that others can hear what someone else has been through, so that they can know that there's hope. And I just want them to know that there's hope, that you don't have to stay in the place that you're in. And we have to realize that what we go through affects everyone around us. Don't give up. When the doctors diagnosed me with stage 4 cervical cancer, I didn't give up because I knew that there was a purpose, because I had gained that relationship with God. And then 9 years later to the date, I was diagnosed with sarcoidosis, and it's a more aggressive disease than cancer. And I wanted to give up. But because I knew what God had did for me before, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that he was going to do it for me again. And he showed me that I had to be here.
Ask you because you told me like faith was really important in helping you, giving you hope and everything. But what made you decide to go back to God? I mean, were you always this person, or did something happen that like woke you up and said, hey, I need to talk, turn to God for the answers?
I really believe there was, my grandmother always taught us to pray. And I was in my darkest hour in the relationship that I was in. And I fell on my knees one night and just began to cry out to God and ask him to remove me from all the evilness. And if he did, then I was going to serve him. I had been trying within myself for 7 years to leave him. And it wasn't until that night that I cried out to God that I was able to walk away and never turn back. And I knew in that moment that God answered my prayer. And it was through that I decided, I'm going to live for him regardless of what the situation or circumstance. I made up in my mind that night, because the last night that I was with that young man, he beat me to a place that I can't even, I couldn't talk for probably about 3 months because he choked me to the point where he damaged my vocal cords. I was embarrassed to go to work. Of course, the black eyes. And after that night, when I got up off that floor, it was like a spark in me. And I haven't turned around since then.
I mean, so like you talk now that like faith really, part of your life, like in your mind, how do you believe in serving God? What does that mean to you? I mean, do you go to like church every Sunday, or do you do community service?
I do it. I go to church every Sunday. I work in the community. I try to help other young men and young ladies that I can see going down a path that I went down. And I know now that, that's one of my purposes, is to be here to be able to help others not go down that path. As I stated, I'm raising my 3 grandbabies, so I'm pouring into them. And I just spend as much time reading God's word, listening for his voice, being led by him as much as I possibly can. And as I
Amen.
said, praise and worship, my mom said I came out singing. So as far as I can remember, singing has always been a healing for me. So a lot of times I'll just go to myself and just sing God a song. And I know that through that singing, because, as I stated, with going through the chemo and radiation, God put a lot of songs in me. And it really helps worship. That's worship.
Wonderful. That's really amazing. I'm so happy for you that you are now a beacon of light for so many other people, because it's really needed. There's a lot of other people that are sick and are confused and they don't know what to do. And it's so wonderful to have people like you. That's why I'm so happy to have you on the show, because that's the whole reason why I created the show, is to have people like you on.
Thank
We
you.
can shed light in the world,
Yeah.
and help diminish that darkness, because that's what's the world is needed right.
Yes.
Need
And
more
it's
people
getting worse.
like yeah. Try not to watch too much of mainstream.
I don't turn my TV on.
So, what about your other creative gifts? I mean, you talk about your writing, but like your music, your performance. How did that really impact your life? Do you still sing now? I'm assuming like in church now, or do you ever sing like when you talking about singing? Was it always singing at church, or you sing like professional?
I used to sing professional. Oh my goodness. Like I said, when I look back, because you'll see it in the book, because I was so focused on being an entertainer, I was willing to do whatever it took to get to that place. So it took me to some dark places, because most people don't realize the entertainment world can be, oh my goodness, it can eat you alive if you allow it to. And really, I was going to that place, and I was sitting in the studio with Babyface and, some of his friends, and I was ready to sign a record contract. And I know now that it was God keeping me, but they told me that I was going to have to deny my kids, because at that time I had both my kids, and they told me that I would have to deny my kids. And it was something in me that I couldn't do it. I walked away. I couldn't do it. It wasn't worth it to me. And once I did that, then I realized that's really not where God wanted me to be.
So, I mean, how like life, as you said, is full of ups and downs. Challenges in life. How does your faith like keep you like balanced?
Wow.
And knowing
It's hard. I will tell anybody walking this life with God, it's hard, but because He's done so much for me in the past, I know without a shadow of a doubt, I couldn't be anywhere else. Just like I told you, my son was in Florida, and one morning, 3:00 a.m., I woke up, and there was such an intensity on me to pray. I couldn't shake it. I couldn't. So I didn't know why I was praying. I didn't know who I was praying for, but I got up and just began to pray and cry out to God. And it was like my heart was literally trying to come out of my chest. And I cried and I prayed and I prayed. And it was like I drifted back off to sleep. I got a phone call at 8:00 that morning. My son had left work, and because he was working third shift, he was tired. He fell asleep at the wheel and ended up at the bottom of a lake at 3:00 in the morning, the same morning. I know, had I not had that connection with God, had I not listened and got up and prayed as He prompted me to, my son probably wouldn't be here. My son don't even know how he got out of the car. He said, "Mama, all I know is I woke up and I was coming to the top of the water." He said, all my windows was up. I don't know how I got out of the car. He said, all I know is I was floating to the top of the water. And he said, when he got out of the water, because he's an avid swimmer, thank God. He's a lifeguard. He said when he came out of the water, a homeless man was there, and the homeless man fell on his knees and started to say, "I don't know who you're serving, but whoever it is, you keep serving him." So I know without a shadow of a doubt, that connection with God is why my son is still here. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure I keep that connection.
And you mentioned also earlier that you're like a teacher as well. Can you maybe share what's the like one of the most rewarding moments is being a teacher?
Oh, wow. Never in a million years would I have thought I would be a teacher. I did start out in middle school and high school. I started out as a home economics teacher, but they've taken all of that out of school. So I've always cooked in restaurants. So I decided, you know, I'm going to go back to college. I enjoy cooking. It's a passion. So I went to culinary school. And when I graduated, the instructors at the culinary school, the gentleman that's over the culinary school called me and said, "We need you back as an instructor. You made an impact on our lives and we need you as part of our group." So I went back. I left because at that time I was teaching high school, and I left high school and went into college. And I have been able to, wow, I've had several students to live with me because they were in places that it was either quit school or, not have a place to stay. So I've been able to help my students. I've been able to, like I said, speak into their lives and keep them from going down a lot of paths that I had already been on. I've just been able to be there to be, like you said, the light. I go in early and pray. I go in and make sure everything is set for the day. And they call me Chef D or Mama D. So I'm like the mother of the culinary department at GTCC. So it has really been a blessing for me.
That's wonderful. So, I mean, you have such a wide range of skills, and you have the faith, which nourishes your soul, and then you have the food, which nourishes the body.
Yes.
It's like an interesting dance, and
Yes.
that's really wonderful. I mean, now that you've done so many different things, you're a teacher, you're a cook, you're an author now. What does success mean to you now after you've been through, all these things and you've had all this success? What does it mean to you now?
Wow. That's all I can say. I honestly didn't think that I would ever be here because, as I stated, I got pregnant at an early age, dropped out of high school, my last 3 months of high school to raise my son, struggled, heard you're never going to amount to anything. You're just like your dad, heard all the stuff. And to be able to look now, and man, I know that shoulda, coulda, woulda, but God, that's all I can say. Now, I had not just have one degree, I have 3 degrees. I have baking and pastry, I have culinary, and don't laugh, my first degree is machining technology. So welding, building cars, tools, that was my first degree. So to be able to look back where I came from and to know where I am now, this is why I can say I know there's a God and I will serve him with all my heart and soul. Because I know that if it had not been for him stepping in and taking over my life, then I probably wouldn't be here.
That's very inspirational and very warming for you to say all these things. It's really amazing.
Thank you.
Is there any like final words you like to share that you haven't expressed at all? if you want off this podcast, you'd like everybody in the audience to know, or everybody in the world?
Oh, wow. Of course, I love God. The main thing I want people to know is, like I said before, there's hope, and please don't give up. There was a time in my life I did give up, but because of the hand of God, like I stated, one of the things he showed me with the sarcoidosis, I did give up. That was one of the hardest things I have ever been through in my life. I had it in my heart. I had it in my brain. I had it in my lungs. I had it on my skin. It took my eyesight. It took my voice. And as I stated, music is my everything. I couldn't sing because of the nodules on my throat. And I told God I was ready to go. And God spoke to me in the midst of that. And he said to me, a piece of coal and a diamond are the same thing. That piece of coal, you can do a couple of things around the house with it, but that diamond is much more valuable. And that diamond can't become that diamond until it's put under the pressure, until it goes through the fire. Danielle, which one do you want to be? Do you want to be that piece of coal that you can do, little things? Or do you want to be that valuable diamond? And I realized that day, I want to be that diamond. And then God had me to look up every jewel. I want you to think of every jewel that is made: gold, diamonds, rubies, even pearls. Pearls are put under pressure because pearls is a piece of dirt that is in the clam's mouth that is clamped under pressure. Anything that is valuable, it has to go through the pressure. It has to go through the fire to become pure, to become that diamond that God needs you to be. So I'm asking each of you today, do you want to be that piece of coal, or do you want to be that diamond? Because you're going to go through things, but it's not what you go through, it's how you come out on the other side. So I didn't just go through everything I went through. I grew through it because I learned from it. And even in the midst of all the things, like I said, I went through that abusive relationship. God had me to call. I wrote a letter. He had me to write my daughter's father a letter and tell him thank you. And I thought God had gone crazy because I'm like, wait a minute now. Do you remember all the stuff he put me through? And he said to me, Danielle, everything he put you through is what has made you who you are today. It's made me that diamond that God has called me to be. So even in the midst of the fire, it might get hot, it might get tense, it might seem like there's no hope. But in the midst of the fire, God is creating you into that person he's called you to be. So don't give up.
That's really wonderful. I love that analogy. Who doesn't like it?
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for coming on the show. And it was a real pleasure to speak with you. And I love hearing about your story. And I love your message about not giving up and have hope. I mean, really, people need to hear that.
Thank you.
So really perfect. Everything was really perfect with what you said. And I wish you the best of luck with your book and the other projects you're coming out with.
I have
And,
two more that I'm working on. Oh, yes.
you definitely come back on the show when you're ready for your next project. We'd love to have you back and
Thank you.
tell us more about what else is next.
Thank you.